Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Hobart, where we strive to put love at the center of how we show up in the world. I'm Carla Banks, your worship associate this morning. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1,000th time Sunday in our midst, we're stronger because you are with us. We are one people with many beliefs, many origins, sexualities,
just barely, which is
genders.
weird because over here it's picking up like
We are all
crazy.
growing, all learning, all love. Just as you are welcome here. Today, our worship service will be led by our minister, Reverend Kathy Harrington. Since not everyone can attend in person, we are streaming this worship service online. Hi.
Sorry. We are not picking up.
Oh.
So we're going to change a little bit.
And good job, Tracy. We extend a special welcome to all who are joining us virtually. One way that we walk together is by joining together for fun and fellowship. In the interest of time, if you have an announcement to share, please send it in an email to Ashley in the office by Wednesday afternoon. Look for our weekly Spark. Thank you, Tiffany. It's wonderful. For more announcements, and if you don't receive the Spark, you can fill out a visitor form in the parish hall. And Carl, you had an announcement?
I just want to preview and invite and make sure everybody knows about April 4th. We will be celebrating the Passover Seder here at the church as we did last year. I invite everybody to come. We'll do a real Seder, a real Haggadah. With the Seder plate, we'll need help with the Seder plate, parsley, maror, hard-boiled eggs, and all the fun stuff, as long as it's Passover kosher. Doesn't really matter. But please come. It'll be April 4th, a Saturday, and it was a lot of fun last year, and we look forward to doing it again this year. So thanks. And come see me if you want to start signing up for a plate to bring or whatever. All right, thank you. Next Sunday, we will be having a special luncheon to celebrate the kickoff of our annual giving campaign with joy and music and theater and jokes. So, so please come prepared next Sunday to give, and to make a commitment to this wonderful institution that we all love so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Please take a moment to greet your neighbors. Really greet your neighbors. Yeah, say hello to someone you don't know. Ring the bell to bring them back. That was great. That was very enthusiastic. Great. Please turn off or silence your devices. And as you do so, allow yourself to enter sacred time together. Take a deep breath. And another. And join in the spirit of reverence.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for getting here on time this morning. I had to set my alarm or I might not be here. So each week during our Sunday morning worship service, we join in reciting the words of our affirmation, which are written on the screen and also in your order of service. This is our affirmation of faith. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Oops, prelude.
Beautiful. The flaming chalice is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It suggests the transformations that take place when we are held within religious community. When we light the chalice in worship, we illuminate a world that we feel called upon to serve with love and justice. Please join us in lighting our chalice by reading together the words on the screen or in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, the celebration of life we share together. Please stand if you're willing and able for our doxology. You can go ahead and start the doxology.
Thanks for having us. It's good to be together again. I must acknowledge that today is International Women's Day, which I spaced, and so, yes, gratitude to women who have fought to change the world. And so sometime this month, because it's Women's Month in the United States, we will have a women's service. The invocation this morning is called Call to Presence by Reverend Bob Janice Dillon. Here within these walls, here in this community of love and justice, we pause in our busy lives to consider what is worthy of our deepest yearnings. In the time we are given here, may we pay attention to wonder of each moment. May we grieve what is lost, and may we be grateful for our life on this beautiful earth. May we prepare ourselves for the work love calls us to do, just as we are. May we be the beloved community we hope to be. It's good to be together again. Please rise in body or spirit, if you're willing, and join me in singing hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. So now it's time for our story for all ages. The story this morning is called Chester's Way by Kevin Hankes. Chester had his own way of doing things. Hello, my name is Chester. I like croquet and peanut butter and making my own bed. Chester always cut his sandwiches diagonally. He always got out of bed on the same side, and he never left the house without double knotting his shoes. Chester always had the same breakfast every morning, toast with jam and peanut butter. And he always carried a miniature first aid kit in his back pocket, just in case. You definitely have a mind of your own, said Chester's mother. That's one way to put it, said his father. Chester's best friend Wilson was exactly the same. That's why they were best friends. Chester wouldn't play baseball unless Wilson played, and they never swung at the first pitch or slid head first. Wilson wouldn't ride his bike unless Chester wanted to, and they always used hand signals. If Chester was hungry, Wilson was too, but they rarely ate between meals. Some days I can't tell those two apart, Wilson's mother said. Me either, said Wilson's father. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester, that's the way it was. They loved to go on picnics. Once when Wilson accidentally swallowed a watermelon seed and cried because he was afraid a watermelon plant would grow inside him, Chester swallowed one too. Don't worry, said Chester. Now if you grow a watermelon plant, so will I. My brother told me it would come out your ears. Chester duplicated his Christmas list every year and gave a copy to Wilson because they always wanted the same things anyway. For Halloween, they always dressed as things that went together, like salt and pepper, shakers, 2 mittens on a string, ham and eggs. They really are 2 peas in a pod, said Chester's mother. Looks like it, said Chester's father. In the spring, Chester and Wilson shared the same umbrella, and in the winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In the fall, they raked leaves together, and in the summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester, that's the way it was. And then Lily moved into the neighborhood. Lily had her own way of doing things. I am Lily, I am the queen, I like everything. She wore Band-Aids all over her arms and legs just to look brave. She talked backwards to herself sometimes so no one would know what she was saying, and she never left the house without one of her nifty disguises. Lily waved at all the cars that passed by, even if she didn't know who was in them. And she always carried a loaded squirt gun in her back pocket, just in case. She definitely has a mind of her own, said Chester. Well, that's one way to put it, said Wilson. So when Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said they were busy. She called them up on the phone so they disguised their voices and said they weren't home. If Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson would cross to the other side and hide. She's something else, said Chester. Looks like it, said Wilson. And then one day when Chester and Wilson were practicing their hand signals, some older boys rode by popping wheelies. They circled Chester and Wilson and yelled personal remarks. Chester and Wilson didn't know what to do. And just when they were about to give up hope, a fierce-looking cat with horrible fangs jumped out of the bushes and frightened the older boys away. Are you who I think you are? Chester asked the cat. Of course, the cat replied. Thank you, Lily, said Chester. You're welcome, Chester. Thank you, Lily, said Wilson. You're welcome, Wilson. I'm glad you're wearing a disguise, said Chester, and I'm glad you had your squirt gun, said Wilson. I always do, just in case, said Lily. And afterward, Chester invited Lily for lunch. You have a mussel mouse cup? Said Lily. Of course, said Chester. I do too, said Lily. Same here, said Wilson. And Chester and Wilson cut their sandwiches diagonally. Lily asked Chester's mother if she had a cookie cutter, and she made stars and flowers and bells. That's neat, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. That night, Lily invited Chester and Wilson to sleep over. You have a nightlight? Of course I do. I do too, said Chester. Me too, said Wilson. And so when Chester and Wilson wanted toast with jam and peanut butter, their usual breakfast the next morning, Lily said, boring. And so she said, try this instead. And this is great, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. After that, when Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said yes. And when she called upon them on the phone, they were pleasant. And if Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson waved and ran to catch up. Chester and Wilson taught Lily hand signals, and she taught them how to pop wheelies. Lily taught Chester and Wilson how to talk backwards, and they taught her how to double knot her shoes. Some days I can't tell those three apart, said Lily's mother. Me either, said Lily's father. And Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester, that's the way it was. For Halloween, they were the three blind mice. For Christmas, Lily gave Chester and Wilson nifty disguises, and they gave her a multitude of colored shoelaces, extra long for double knotting. They loved picnics. Chester and Wilson told Lily how they each swallowed a watermelon seed once, so Lily swallowed 3 of them. I'll grow a watermelon plant for each of us, she said. And in the spring, they shared the same umbrella. In the winter, they never threw snowballs. In fall, they raked leaves together, and in the summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson and Lily and Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Victor moved into the neighborhood. And that's the story.
Each week, we share a portion of our Sunday offering with a social justice cause outside our church walls. This month, we are sharing our loose change collecting. Donations in the baskets will go to sustaining the mission of our congregation, and the donation in the cups goes to Northwest Indiana Pride Fest 2026. The event will be held June 6th and 7th at Sunset Hill Farm in Valparaiso. Our beneficiaries this year are IYG, LBGTQ Outreach of Porter County, and the Indiana Pride of Color. Each of these organizations is dedicated to the uplifting of and advocacy of GLBTQ people in our area and throughout our state. For those not with us in person today, there's an online link for both one-time and regular donations. Would 4 volunteers please come forward?
1, 2, 3, 4.
And
now in the center of our service and in the center of our lives, let us pause to honor the silences of the world. Let us open our hearts to the place of quiet and the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. This morning's prayer is called Who We Listen To Is Who We Become by the Reverend Scott Taylor. Let us turn inward in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Sometimes the world outside can be so loud, making it hard to hear those voices we once knew so well. And so, to silence, we turn to listen for the echoes of memories that make us whole, the pain of others that reawakens our hearts, and the beauty of this generous, wildly generous world that wants us back. This is the attention that saves us, heals us, opens us, and expands us. And so in the stillness of this space, let us not just listen for clarity and guidance, but to become larger. Those voices whispering from deep within are not just calling us home, they are home. We must remember this. What we give our attention to is what we become. And yes, sometimes the world outside can be so loud it leaves us lost. But the quiet always remains, waiting and willing to be our companion, gently calling us to shift our attention and reclaim ourselves. Let us pause for a moment of silence. I invite you now to come forward and light a candle of memory or hope, or just sit quietly as the music continues to hold us in a meditative space. I light this one last candle for those of you at home and for those of you whose prayer or joy remain in your heart. This morning we hold all the people in Iran who have lost loved ones, especially those of the families of parents of the 168 children who died in that elementary school. So I'd invite you now to lift the names of loved ones in this sacred space, those that you hold close, some suffering in sorrow and some celebrating in joy. May they feel the love and the warmth of our embrace.
Joys and sorrows are a time to share your personal joys that you are celebrating so that we can celebrate with you as a community. It's also a time to share personal sorrows that weigh on our hearts so that we can support one another in our times of sorrow or grief. Keep this in mind that this part of the service excludes our online members, friends, and visitors. Roz? Roz will be coming around with the mic.
let's sing our centering hymn, 1011 in your teal hymnal. It's very short. Return Again.
Our reading today, Turning to One Another by Margaret Wheatley. There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change the world. Rely on human goodness. Stay together.
In this time of deep uncertainty, instability, it can be overwhelming when we wake up every morning to the next crisis, the chaos. So I turn to the wisdom of Lao Tzu, who said, if there's to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the heart. So this gives us something tangible that we can do here and now if we can't do something huge and tremendous that we think we should be doing. We can start with our own hearts to bring peace to our broken world. So when we look inside our own hearts and truly begin to know ourselves, peace begins with us. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. But when we focus on the mistakes of others, as Marshall Rosenberg, the nonviolent communication specialist, says, we provoke defensiveness and create conflict. Any words we use to imply the wrongness of others are tragic, he says. They are suicidal expressions of what's alive inside us. It diminishes us when we become judgmental and critical, and it's not effective. So to make changes in our unconscious habits, we must first identify them. And to identify them, we must cultivate awareness that return again to the home of our soul. Patricia Cranton says, transformative learning involves reconstructing our established frame of reference. That means our frames of reference as complex webs of assumptions, expectations, values, and beliefs that act as a filter or screen through which we see the world. It's a lifelong journey. if one is willing to do the work. I found journaling helps. And another is maybe going on a retreat, a transcendental retreat. I mean, how lovely was that? And then also find time to take you outside of your normal routine. Go on a bike ride through the dunes. Get together with folks where you might be able to reflect on the stories of your life, the stories what we tell ourselves of falling short, our failed narratives, the failed narratives of our lives that influence the way we view the world, that hamper the choices we make and shape and establish over time the habits of our mind and our heart. And so, I think this also reflects that perennial wisdom of the ancient Greeks, know thyself. I resonated really deeply with that phrase, rewriting the failed narratives. My failed narrative. I was a pregnant teenager at 17. I thought I was a disappointment to my parents. I had to forego college. I became a hairdresser and ultimately a divorced mother of 3 children. And I was reading Barbara Kingsolver's book, Poisonwood Bible, and her daughter had a thought. And she said she felt like her insides were lined with shame like a badly wallpapered bathroom. It was the first time in my life that I felt understood. So taking time to reflect, you can reflect with a counselor or a minister or a spiritual director. It's helpful, especially when we feel like we're caught in a problem. When my son Andy was 11 years old, his bedroom was next to the master bedroom. And Andy had a stepfather, and he was growing like a weed. I think he grew almost 6 inches in 1 year. And so he was clumsy. The room was small. My older son had a room on his own, and we had a room set up in the basement. He was the oldest, so we gave it to him. But every time Andy would turn over in bed, his feet would hit the wall, and it would make a noise. He was a messy kid, and it did not help the strained relationship that he had with his stepfather. We lived in discord, it seemed, almost day and night. And exhausted, at a loss of what to do, I went to see a counselor. And I made an observation. My counselor made the observation when I told her what I was living with. And she said, well, why don't you just switch the children's bedrooms? Duh. It worked. The noise stopped, the fighting ceased, and I was happy for a change. So I understand this now to be a successful negotiation. I studied conflict analysis and engagement, and before I started, I had a narrow view of negotiation because I always thought that it was somebody had to lose something in a negotiation. Nobody got really what they needed. It would be the lesser of the evils. But the reality is that most of us rarely pass through a day without negotiating. Anita Broderick, the founder of The Body Shop, once said, any woman who has dealt with 2 children and 1 piece of toffee can negotiate any contract in the world. So they said that the best way to learn how to have a successful negotiation or whatever it is you need to do in your relationships is to know yourself. Know what triggers you, and don't let those triggers interfere with your judgments. And get fresh perspectives as often as you can. So one wonderful example is Gandhi, his nonviolent effective resistance to the British. He was an Indian Hindu who had his law degree from London, and it was on his understanding of British law and British culture that gave him the insights about how to negotiate with the British government nonviolently. And so another illustration, I don't know if any of you have read any of Anthony DeMello. This little story is called At One Ment. When a man whose marriage was in trouble sought his advice, the master said, you must learn to listen to your wife. The man took his advice to heart and returned a month later to say he had listened to every word his wife was saying. The master smiled and said, "And now go home and listen to every word she is not saying." So this is another important part of negotiation. Pay attention to what's not being said. People reveal a lot through their body language and their actions, and there's always a shadow negotiation going on beneath what they're really saying. Take time to truly hear the other person's story, their feelings, their position, and ask how you would react in the same situation. So you can broadly think of this as, how do we speak to those people who we don't agree with, who are supporting the policies that are cruel and hurting others? So I was reminded of the time when my oldest son, he was the one that was born 12 days after my 18th birthday. He raised me. He'll be the first to tell you. He came to me at 12. Well, how old was he? I've forgotten. He was in 8th grade, I think. He came to me and announced that he decided that he would go live with his father. And I was like stunned and terrified. But I thought, well, I'm going to use like reverse psychology or something. So I said, "Honey, I understand that you feel this way, and I'm sorry, but if that's what you want to do, I won't stop you." And so he burst into tears, stormed into his bedroom, screaming, "I knew you never wanted me." He must have learned to do the math, and figure out that what was going on. He didn't want to live with his father. All he wanted was to hear his mother tell him she loved him with all her heart. It wasn't a rebellion, it was a call for love. How many times are these moments just a call for love? It was a hidden agenda, and I was clueless. So listen to what they're not saying. Appreciate other people's ideas and don't back them into a corner. Help them save face. If we can stay present in the moment and focus on the person's humanity first and foremost, that will be a way that we can move to that deepest and surest human place. The beauty of connection emerges from a willingness and a curiosity to hear the other person's story. Then this is the beginning of infinite potentiality. Remarkable things can happen when you feel that you've been heard and affirmed. Unfortunately, human nature is capable of dehumanizing the other to the point of feeling justified in killing them. As we are witnessing today, it's easier to dehumanize than to do the inner work that this kind of transformation requires. When I was a manager of a Regis hairstylist salon many years ago, and they're in the mall, I don't know, they may not still be around, one of my employees decided to open her own salon, and she took 4 of my best hairdressers with her. I called the office, which is in Minneapolis, to ask for advice, and I was instructed by my supervisor from corporate office to tell their clients that we didn't know where they were. And then she attempted to comfort me by saying, "Let's face it, Kathy, hairdressers are a dime a dozen, and they aren't all that bright." I guess she forgot who she was talking to. And this is a generalization that I felt, myself, many times. I felt like I was less than because I was a hairdresser. But if you've ever had a conversation with your hairdresser, I'm pretty certain you know that they aren't dumb. So I decided when the customers came by or called that instead of telling them we didn't know where they were, I gave them the phone number and offered to call it for them. And people would say, "Oh, no, that's okay. Do you have someone else who could do it for me?" I learned this from my boss who was in Florida, Bernard Desjardins. I had been working, he was a National Hall of Fame award-winning hairstylist and teacher. He had a beauty school in Bangor, Maine, he and his wife, Goo, had bought a empty convent and turned it into a beauty school. And Goo was determined, she believed with all her heart that the reason they were having so many financial problems was because they used this confessionals as dirty towel bins. They were fun to work with. So I was working for the Hairbenders, which was the best salon in Orlando, because we won lots of awards. And I had been grousing about my boss with my best friend Jane, who worked in the station right next to me. And I had an insight into the habits of my mind as I was driving to work. After getting 3 kids to school in 3 different schools and being at work on time at 8:30, that's, a little, you probably do that too. You all know what that's like. So I realized as I was driving to work that I was actually looking forward to grousing with Jane. Misery loves company, right? Me. Candy this, candy that. And so I thought, this is wrong. It's time to go. Instead of staying in that place of, I realized it was time to go. I was scared. But I had been offered a job at Bernard's salon, and I accepted it. I gave 2 weeks' notice, and my boss threw me out on the spot that day, Candy. She took my client records so I couldn't contact anybody. But I know what kind of mistake that was, right? So I just put an ad in the paper. They put an ad in the paper because I had won first place in haircutting in the state of Florida. And it said, La Tête welcomes a champion. And that's all it took. People found me. So also humor is a good negotiation tool. Have you ever had to negotiate with your kids? As a single mother, my oldest son, who was born an old man, I don't know how that happened. He was an entrepreneur. He saved his allowance, he bought a lawnmower, and he was always flush. And as a single mother, I was always broke. And so I borrowed money from him. And he got tired of it because I was often delinquent in paying him back. And so one day he brought me a contract to sign. It was a litany of regulations with explicit caveats such as no excuses accepted, no attempts to renege by saying if it weren't for me, you would have never been born, or you wouldn't have a bed to sleep in, etc. And then he said, and if you don't like these rules, tough, bleep, borrow from someone else. What a kid, right? He hasn't changed. The kid is still flush, and I know better than to borrow from him. And so, summing up this sermon, in any conflict situation you find in your own personal life or in the community or even bigger, don't use words that imply the wrongness of someone else. Wrongness of others are tragic, suicidal expressions of what's alive inside of us. In any conflict you find yourself, don't neglect the other person's problem and understand their point of view. And try to understand how they see themselves as well. And if you find yourself negotiating at an uneven table, remember these things. Personal authenticity is key. Be a truth teller using listening as a catalyst for creativity. Honor your integrity even at a great cost, and be willing to stand alone. Find room for compassion. Draw the line in the sand without cruelty. Stay in dialogue and know when it's time to leave the table and how to leave the table. So never forget, I think, right now we feel helpless. We can change the world when we change our hearts and our minds, and that every small act of peace and love that we share with others enhances our lives and blesses the world. May it be so. Amen. I think we're going to sing Closing hymn is Just as Long as I Have Breath. Hymn number 6 in your gray hymnal. Oh, sorry. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to thy will. My way, still I hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. Now where's that elusive spark? If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to wrong. Disappointment pierce me through, will I act on loving you? If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
I invite you now to join me in reciting the words on the screen and in your order of service to accompany our extinguishing of the chalice. We
Extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Closing words also by Reverend Scott Taylor, The Power of Pause. The work ahead demands much, and so vigilance is a must. But don't forget to pause, friends, for it is from grounded hearts and inner stillness that the vision to see clearly and to strengthen the world and to repair the world arise. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Bravery.